After a year as a volunteer doctor with the World Health Organization, I had saved countless lives in conflict zones. Upon my return, I was immediately called to perform an emergency surgery for severe hemorrhaging. The patient was my fiancée, and the cause was a ruptured ectopic pregnancy. With a heavy heart, I gripped the cold scalpel and performed a hysterectomy on my betrothed. As I exited the operating theater, my brother Gareth approached me with a guilty expression. "Griff, I meant to look after Meredith while you were away, but things got out of hand and we ended up in bed together. You hadn't tied the knot yet, so you won't hold it against me, right?" Meredith, still groggy from the anaesthesia, looked at me in shock. "Griffith Haig, I can't believe you're alive. This is so frustrating. How am I supposed to claim your life insurance now?" Ding. Story Shots reminds you to click the subscribe button at the bottom right corner to read the full novel. Scalpel. Hemostat. Gauze. Prepare for hysterectomy. Under the operating lights, I calmly issued one order after another. Though my heart was in turmoil, filled with jealousy, confusion, and anger, my hand holding the scalpel remained steady. Saving lives is a doctor's sacred duty. Even if the woman lying on the operating table was Meredith Barlow, my fiancée whom I hadn't seen in a year. She had suffered an ectopic pregnancy and severe bleeding caused by my brother, Griffith Haig. Now I, the cuckolded fiancé, had to save her life. Could there be anything more melodramatic in this world? Looking at Meredith's beautiful yet unfamiliar face, I desperately wanted to shake her awake, to ask her why she betrayed me. But my professional ethics as a doctor prevented me from acting on impulse. An hour later, the surgery was complete. Meredith's removed uterus lay bloody and mangled in the medical waste bin. She was still unconscious as my assistants and nurses finished up. Exhausted, I removed my mask and left the operating theater first. My adoptive parents and Gareth immediately swarmed around me. How did it go? Was the surgery successful? Is she out of danger? They bombarded me with questions, utterly disregarding my ashen face and bloodshot eyes. "Gareth," I grabbed my brother's collar. "What the bloody hell is going on? Didn't you know Meredith was my girlfriend? She's your future sister-in-law." Gareth's face reddened at my outburst, and he lowered his head sheepishly. "What are you shouting about? A girlfriend isn't a wife. If Gareth fancies her, you should step aside like a good brother." My adoptive father immediately jumped to defend his biological son. Emboldened by the support, Gareth suddenly found his voice. "That's right, brother. You've been away for a year, and Meredith was lonely. As your brother, I had to look after her. We're young and impulsive. We hit it off and ended up in bed together. It's fate that we could share a duvet. Though we're not blood brothers, there's a saying, brothers before hoes. We grew up together thick as thieves, so you surely won't mind. Don't feel like you've lost out. I've got a few ex-girlfriends. If you fancy any of them, I'll set you up. It's all in the family. No outsiders involved." As Gareth prattled on, I could no longer contain my fury. Smack! I landed a solid punch on Gareth's face. "How dare you speak like that?" Gareth fell to the ground, clutching his face in pain. My adoptive mother immediately burst into tears. "Help! The doctor's assaulting someone." My adoptive father lunged forward, slapping me across the face with even greater force. "You ungrateful wretch! If we hadn't adopted you, you'd have starved to death. Forget Gareth taking your woman. You owe us your very life. This is what you owe the Haig family. Apologize to your brother right now." The commotion drew a crowd of onlookers, creating a noisy scene. The more chaotic it became outside, the more isolated I felt inside. Tears streamed down my face uncontrollably. "Mom, Dad, thank you for raising me all these years. I won't pursue this matter any further, but from now on, we're done. No more ties between us. I was once an orphan, wandering the streets alone. At the age of 12, I was abducted by a human trafficker who used a chloroform-soaked cloth to render me unconscious. A few days later, the trafficker brought in another child. He was 2 years younger than me. That was Gareth Haig. The trafficker was ruthless, intending to disable us and force us to beg on the streets for money. Unwilling to accept this fate, I gnawed through the ropes one night and escaped from that den of horrors. I took Gareth with me, and we sought help at the police station. The police mobilized and caught the entire trafficking ring. The incident made the news, with media outlets scrambling to cover the story. Gareth's parents arrived, embracing their son with tears streaming down their faces. I envied him, for I had no family to reunite with. However, in front of the media, Gareth's parents offered to adopt me. They were grateful because I had saved their son. Of course, I was overjoyed. I finally had a family. Everyone praised the Haigs for their kindness and sense of duty. I had saved their son, and they, in turn, took me in as their adopted child. It seemed like a heartwarming tale of reciprocal goodwill. But soon after I moved in with the Haigs, I realized things weren't as simple as they appeared. My adoptive parents were cold towards me, yet they were eager to take me on television for interviews with reporters. My adoptive parents ran an online marketplace selling clothing. Due to the news coverage, their business was booming. They were raking in money hand over fist. It was then that I understood my adoptive parents had very utilitarian motives for taking me in. But I didn't complain, remaining grateful nonetheless. For the next decade or so, I devoted myself wholeheartedly to the Haig family. I eagerly took on household chores and excelled in my studies. Gareth was spoiled and had a lordly attitude, but I always gave way to him. I was a good student while he struggled academically. I was willing to neglect my own studies to tutor him. It was I who dragged Gareth kicking and screaming to university. After turning 18, I started working part-time to support myself. Even when I fell in love with Meredith Barlow and wanted to buy a house to get married, I never thought of asking the Haigs for money. Instead, I decided to become an overseas aid doctor. Hand on heart, I can say I've done right by the Haig family and owe them nothing. When I said I wanted to cut ties completely, my adoptive father became even more enraged. I've raised you for over a decade, and now you think you can just walk away? It's not that easy, he shouted. Unless you pay £500,000 as a severance fee. The commotion outside the operating theater attracted security, and the deputy chief medical officer, with his protruding belly, also appeared. He glowered at me and bellowed, "Griffith Haig, what's going on? How dare you assault a patient's relative? You think you're some kind of hero just because you spent a year as a field medic? Let me tell you, as long as I'm here, you won't be throwing your weight around. Come to my office now." The deputy chief medical officer had always had it in for me, never missing a chance for personal vendettas. The reason was my integrity, which contrasted sharply with his greed and lechery. He was always surrounded by pharmaceutical representatives, accepting bribes in the form of money, gifts, and women, all to get their drugs into the hospital for exorbitant profits. Many doctors were in cahoots with him, thick as thieves. I despised this corruption and refused to be part of it. One night, while I was on duty, I heard a girl crying for help from the deputy chief medical officer's office. "Please don't do this," she pleaded. "I'm here to sell drugs, not myself." "Ha! Who are you trying to fool? Everyone knows you little minxes are free for the taking. Come on. I've just taken my pills and I'm raring to go," he sneered. "Help! Someone! Please help me. Heh, this is my territory. You can scream your lungs out, but no one's coming to save you." The deputy chief medical officer's sinister laughter mingled with the girl's desperate sobs. Indeed, many had heard but chose to turn a deaf ear. Only I, in my youthful impetuousness, kicked down the door and planted a solid kick on the deputy chief medical officer's bare backside. I rescued the disheveled girl and brought her to safety. That was my first encounter with Meredith Barlow. In the deputy chief medical officer's office, he sat with his legs crossed, a sinister smile on his face. "Griffith Haig, did you think you could escape my grasp just because you've been a war zone doctor for a year? Dream on. As long as I'm in this hospital, you'll never see the light of day." Of course, after I punched the deputy chief, I became the thorn in his side. Every day was a struggle. I was given the most grueling work, while being passed over for pay rises and promotions. But I don't regret it because I fell in love with Meredith Barlow. Naturally, Meredith was also fired from the pharmaceutical company. To protect her reputation, she didn't dare report it to the police. To provide Meredith with a good life, I saved money to buy a house and get married. It was also to carve out a path for myself. Last year, I signed up for an overseas medical team and became a war zone doctor. The battlefield was dangerous, with death lurking at every corner. But war zone doctors received high allowances, and it was a respectable addition to my CV, which would help with future promotions. For our future, I decided to take the risk. After a tearful goodbye with Meredith, I left for a war-torn country a year ago. Death, killing, blood, explosions, severed limbs, children crying over corpses. During those days, my fiancée back home was my greatest emotional support. I kept telling myself I had to survive and return to Meredith. Marry her, have 2 children, and adopt a dog. Although we rarely communicated this past year due to poor battlefield conditions, I sent all my war zone doctor's allowance, tens of thousands of pounds a year, directly to Meredith. I wanted her to have a better life, to not struggle so much. Who could have imagined that as soon as I returned home and went to the hospital to complete the handover procedures, Meredith would be rushed to A&E with a ruptured ectopic pregnancy and severe bleeding. Just as I left the smoke-filled battlefield, I fell into a moral quagmire. My heart was filled not just with anger, but more so with confusion. Meredith, weren't you so pure? How did you become like this? Griffith Haig, I heard about what happened to you. Haha, your own brother stabbed you in the back. Didn't he? The deputy chief's face was full of schadenfreude. I told you that woman was a little minx. It wasn't me who assaulted her back then. She was the one who wanted to play doctor and nurse with me. But you didn't believe me, did you? Serves you right, you cuckold. Meredith was already awake, lying alone in the hospital bed, playing with her phone. I pushed open the door. She finally saw me. Meredith had been either unconscious or under anesthesia before, so she had no idea that I was the one who performed her surgery. She was surprised. Oh, Griffith, when did you get back? A flicker of panic crossed Meredith's face, but it quickly changed to calm composure. It's good you're back. Let's break up. From now on, I'm your sister-in-law. Stop pursuing me. How casually she said it. Why are you doing this to me? I've been working my arse off abroad for you. How have I wronged you? I growled my questions. Haha. At this point, I won't pretend to be innocent anymore. Let's lay our cards on the table. I'm just a gold digger, a materialistic woman, a two-faced bitch. Did you really think I didn't know that being a pharmaceutical rep meant sleeping with men? I was willing to do it, I didn't mind at all. As long as the money was right, what did it matter who I slept with? So why did I cry for help? Because I heard the deputy chief liked role play, liked excitement, so I deliberately pretended to resist, to make it more immersive for the old codger. After all, he's seen plenty of women who strip as soon as they enter the room. He probably preferred my innocent, naive good girl act. Who would have thought you'd be such an idiot and burst in, kicking the deputy chief? Now the company's sacked me, and no doctor will dare touch me again. You've completely cut off my income. I hate you so much. Luckily, I heard your family was quite well off, with assets worth millions, so I played along as the pure girlfriend. But after a while, I realized you were just an adopted son. The Haig family's millions have nothing to do with you. It all belongs to Gareth. If I married you, wouldn't I be blind? Fortunately, Gareth is a greedy cat. There's nothing better than a sister-in-law for a bit of fun. I could tell he fancied me early on. So on the 3rd day after you left the country, I told him my pipes were broken and asked him to come fix them. I seduced him right then and there. Ha ha ha. Meredith laughed uncontrollably. Griffith, I never thought you'd come back alive. I thought you'd be blown to bits. Then I could get a huge compensation payout. Ha ha ha. Her smile was grotesque and twisted. You poisonous woman. I raised my hand high, but before it could fall, My adoptive parents and Gareth Haig burst in, all fired up. Gareth's eyes were red with anger. "You dog! I've just found out you've removed Meredith's womb? You're too cruel. You've made me childless." My adoptive parents followed, gnashing their teeth. "Griffith Haig, you beast! Ungrateful wretch! You want our Haig family line to end with you?" Of course, Meredith Barlow was the most agitated of all. She had been smiling before, but now she couldn't smile at all. My womb is gone? I'm no longer a complete woman? I can't have children anymore." She jumped up from the bed like a mad woman, her hair disheveled, and roared at me. "Griffith Haig, just because I cheated on you, you had to destroy me? Murderer! Executioner! Your heart is black as coal. I'm calling the police. I'll have you locked up. I'll have your life." She cried out in accusation. The police really did come. "Griffith Haig, you're suspected of intentional harm. Please come with us for questioning." The deputy chief of medicine also came scurrying out like a dog. "Abusing your position for personal revenge, no medical ethics. Griffith Haig, you're fired." At the police station, I calmly answered the officer's questions. "You and Meredith Barlow were once in a relationship?" "Yes. She's now with another man." "How do you feel about that?" "Hatred." "So you took revenge by deliberately removing Meredith's womb?" "No," I answered righteously. "I've always remembered my oath as a doctor. Although Meredith and I have emotional entanglements, and I hate her unfaithful betrayal, on the operating table she was a patient and I was a doctor. All my judgments and decisions were professional, without any personal grudges. She was rushed to hospital with severe bleeding due to an ectopic pregnancy. Her life was in danger at any moment. I removed her womb to save her life. I have a clear conscience." The officer nodded. "Was it absolutely necessary to remove the entire womb? Wasn't there any other way to preserve the patient's fertility? After all, for a woman of childbearing age, removing the womb is irreversible damage. How do you explain this?" I continued to answer calmly. "There are many surgical treatments for ectopic pregnancy. The treatment needs to consider the patient's specific condition to develop a personalized surgical plan. Most ectopic pregnancies occur in the fallopian tubes, so the affected tube needs to be removed, not the uterus. This way, the patient's partial fertility can be preserved." But when Meredith was brought to the emergency operating room, her fallopian tube had already ruptured, causing internal bleeding in the abdominal cavity, seriously endangering the patient's life. Therefore, removing the uterus became a necessary choice. I don't think my choice was problematic. The entire operation was recorded on video. There are medical records, assistants, and nurses. All of these can prove my innocence. I request a medical assessment by industry experts to prove whether my surgical plan was standard and reasonable. As I spoke, I took out a file from my pocket. I can't evaluate my own medical ethics, but this is a medal and letter of thanks awarded to me by the World Health Organization, thanking me for my outstanding contributions in saving lives during my overseas aid work over the past year. After looking at the medal and letter of thanks, the officer immediately showed me great respect. "Dr. Haig, we will certainly investigate carefully and clear your name. Better to be a dog in times of peace than a man in times of war. Those living in a peaceful society can't imagine the madness and cruelty of a battlefield." At first, faced with bodies strewn about, I was terrified, vomiting, and having nightmares. I even felt cowardly and regretful. I wanted to flee back to England, but later I realized the greatness of being a battlefield doctor. In the vortex of death, the Red Cross armband on our arms represented life and hope. We were angels in the hearts of the injured and downtrodden people. Especially those children who had lost their families reminded me of my own background. I admit I became a battlefield doctor for fame and career prospects. My motives weren't pure. But on the battlefield, my spiritual world was elevated. I threw myself wholeheartedly into this noble cause. In 1 year, I saved 137 lives through my efforts. Of course, it was grueling and exhausting, and I nearly died several times. The most dangerous time, I even wrote my will. It happened when armed men took hostages, including an injured British female photographer. Her life was hanging by a thread and needed immediate rescue. To treat her wounds, I stripped completely naked, taking only a medical kit, and entered the armed criminal's lair. I even volunteered myself as a hostage to exchange for the British photographer's release. These armed criminals were inhuman. They dared to attack United Nations aid volunteers, so they had no qualms about killing battlefield doctors. Fortunately, in the end, it was the James Bond-like special forces that descended from the sky like gods, snatching me back from the jaws of death. The police worked efficiently. They immediately retrieved the surgery recordings and medical records, and collected witness statements from the assistants and nurses. They also consulted several authoritative medical experts to conduct a professional assessment of my entire surgical procedure. The conclusion was that there were absolutely no issues with the entire surgery process. If I hadn't made the swift decision to remove Meredith Barlow's uterus, she would have lost more than just her ability to bear children. She would have lost her life. Therefore, I was found innocent. Not only was I cleared of any wrongdoing, but the police also gave Griffith Haig and Meredith Barlow a stern talking to. They educated them that while adultery isn't illegal, it's morally reprehensible and goes against public decency. They advised them to behave themselves and not to repay kindness with resentment. The adulterous couple looked sheepish but clearly remained unrepentant. Griffith Haig, you deliberately ruined me. Meredith spat venomously. I hate you. I'll hate you for the rest of my life. Griffith, if you have any backbone, don't ever set foot in our family home again. Gareth snarled. I couldn't be bothered to waste any more words on this despicable pair. I left the police station first. While waiting by the roadside to hail a taxi back to the hospital's bachelor accommodation, Gareth drove past in his BMW. The window rolled down, revealing Meredith's haughty face. Still taking taxis? Your poverty-stricken state means you're doomed to a miserable life, she sneered. Forget about a BMW. You can't even afford a bicycle. Ha! I can't help but laugh when I think about it. You worked yourself to the bone abroad to earn those tens of thousands of pounds in grants, and you gave it all to me. Now your pockets are as empty as your face is clean. Gareth laughed too. He's like a stray dog now, homeless. My family doesn't want him, and he can't go back to the hospital. He's been suspended. Does he think the deputy chief executive will still let him stay in the staff accommodation? He'll be sleeping rough soon enough. As the adulterous couple were laughing heartily, suddenly an orange Maserati sports car pulled up slowly beside me. The convertible top rose, revealing a stunningly beautiful face, as exquisite as a flower. Get in, Griffith. Under the shocked and envious gaze of the adulterous couple, I got into the supercar, and we sped away, leaving them in the dust. Griffith, thank you for picking me up. What are you talking about? You're my lifesaver. I said back then I'd repay you with my life if I had to. Rowena Sinclair's smile was as radiant as a flower. But then you said you had a fiancée, and we could only be friends. Even though I fell for you at first sight, I couldn't be the other woman, could I? I had to accept that we weren't meant to be. I even cried in secret several times about it. Rowena's smile grew even brighter. Hee. But heaven has eyes. That gold digger didn't want you anymore. She threw away the diamond to chase after fool's gold. At that moment, the Maserati stopped at a red light. Rowena reached out her soft hand and gently held mine. This time you have no reason to refuse me, right? We've been through life and death together. This kind of bond is the most genuine. Don't worry, I'll never betray you. Since returning to the UK, all I've experienced is pain and resentment. Rowena's appearance has given me the greatest warmth and comfort. She's the British photographer I saved by exchanging myself as a hostage when we were abroad. She's a brave war correspondent. She uses her lens to convey the bloody carnage on the battlefield, calling for attention to civilians in war zones. War correspondents, like battlefield doctors, are messengers of peace. So although Rowena and I haven't known each other for long, we're kindred spirits. There's a feeling of mutual admiration and wishing we'd met sooner. And I admire her even more. After all, my initial motivation for becoming a battlefield doctor was somewhat utilitarian. It was for the extra pay and career advancement. My mindset only changed gradually later. But Rowena was already a top-tier socialite. Her family is very wealthy, with assets worth billions. The Haigs are like beggars compared to the Sinclairs. So Rowena's choice to become a war correspondent was purely for her ideals, for her desire for peace. When we were abroad, I took care of the injured Rowena for over a month. She finally recovered completely. She confessed to me, saying she liked me, both love at first sight and a deepening affection over time. She wanted to give herself to me. Although she was superior to Meredith Barlow in every way, I firmly rejected Rowena's advances at that time, because I couldn't be a Judas who abandons the poor for the rich, who is fickle in love. I remained faithful to love, only to be harshly slapped by reality. Fortunately, what's lost in the East is gained in the West. The humiliation suffered from that heartless woman was soothed by this angel, just as Griffith Haig had predicted. Although I was cleared of any wrongdoing by the police, the deputy director still used this as an excuse to deny my reinstatement. They even changed the locks on my dormitory. The police may not have arrested you, but that was just luck, he sneered. You've still violated our hospital's regulations. Go home and wait for news about your reinstatement. The deputy director's face was full of arrogance. Griffith, I know you can't stand me, but I just love seeing you like this, unable to do anything about it despite your obvious disdain. He thought he had me cornered, but he'd actually kicked a hornet's nest. The truth is, even before I returned to the UK, several media outlets had already requested interviews with me. Newspapers, websites, and television stations, all mainstream media, not those self-proclaimed internet celebrities. But I had declined them all. After my experience on the battlefield, I had become more composed and low-key, not wanting to draw attention to myself in this way. However, now faced with such injustice, I had to stand up and defend my rights. I accepted interviews with several media outlets, recounting my year-long experience of saving lives on the battlefield. At the same time, Rowena Sinclair had organized a photography exhibition for me at the Provincial Arts Center. After I saved her life, she had been following me around, capturing many photos of me providing medical care on the battlefield. There was a photo of me crawling into ruins to rescue a bloodied young girl. Another showed me urgently bandaging an elderly woman injured by explosions amidst the rubble. In a makeshift operating theater constructed from plastic sheets, I performed 7 consecutive surgeries on innocent civilians before collapsing from exhaustion. Although I'm a surgeon, I did all sorts of work on the battlefield, including delivering babies. One photo showed me holding a newborn infant, my tired face beaming with satisfaction. There were many such photos, not just of me, but of aid workers from all over the world, busy among the ruins, holding up hope for life. Rowena titled this collection, Doves in the Crossfire. My interviews had already garnered significant public attention. The photography exhibition was even more sensational. I became famous, a viral doctor in the most positive sense of the term. More media outlets came seeking interviews. The deputy director found himself in quite an awkward position. He called me specially, his tone unprecedentedly humble and polite. Griffith, my dear chap, how have you been resting these past few days? I always knew you were innocent. When I asked you to take a break from work, it was mainly out of concern for your health. You were exhausted. Come back. You've been reinstated. The hospital wants to hold a special press conference to introduce your glorious deeds as a battlefield doctor. Of course, at the conference, you should also mention the hospital's support, the leadership's help, especially my assistance as the supervising deputy director. Right? Don't worry, I won't shortchange you. Our previous misunderstandings were just that, misunderstandings. Let's not mention them again. Ha ha ha. We'll all prosper together. Promotion and pay rise won't be a problem. We're not just superior and subordinate anymore. We're brothers, mates. Listening to the deputy director's words, I smiled sarcastically. He must have realized I'd become famous, with many media outlets likely approaching the hospital for interviews. Knowing he could no longer suppress me, he had switched to trying to win me over. He even wanted to use me to polish his own image, to become his political achievement, a bargaining chip for his own promotion and wealth. He certainly knew how to play his cards, didn't he? Deputy Director, you're right. I am indeed too tired and need a rest, I said. Haha, it's just a press conference, won't take long, he replied. I'll give you paid leave after the conference. Paid leave? I know you've been upset about Meredith lately. It's just women. Plenty more fish in the sea. I know over a dozen beautiful pharmaceutical reps, each prettier than the last, and they're great in bed. Want me to introduce you? He continued to shamelessly try to win me over. It made me want to vomit. Deputy Director, stop it. I won't be corrupted by you. Not before, not now, not ever, I said before hanging up. I could still hear the Deputy Director's furious roar as I ended the call. Haig, you ungrateful bastard. I dismissed the Deputy Director's words as nothing but hot air. Several major hospitals in the city had invited me to join them. I no longer needed to put up with small-minded people like the Deputy Director. But there's a saying, better to have a lion on your side than a jackal. Many media outlets came to the hospital wanting to interview me. When they heard about my suspension, they were naturally shocked and asked what had happened. Facing the media, the Deputy Director twisted the facts and spouted nonsense. Don't be fooled by Griffith Haig. He's just a hypocrite seeking fame. I bet those battlefield photos are all photoshopped. I don't believe he actually risked his life on the battlefield. Let me tell you, this Haig became arrogant and insufferable when he returned to the hospital. He forced the leadership to give him a raise and promote him. Isn't that just being greedy? Grasp all, lose all. Oh, and he assaulted a patient's family member, causing a terrible social impact for the hospital. Our hospital can't tolerate such a bad apple. That's why I fired him. Faced with the Deputy Director's mudslinging, I certainly wasn't going to stay silent anymore. Before, I was just an insignificant nobody, my words carrying little weight. But now I'm a public figure too. Over the years, I've gathered quite a bit of evidence of the Deputy Director's illegal activities. I made a formal complaint to the Healthcare Regulatory Authority. I also posted it online, proving my innocence. The Deputy Director was dumbfounded. He hurriedly called me. Griffith, Dr. Haig, Brother Haig. I'm your father. Oh, great one. I was wrong. I made a mistake. Please delete those posts. They've been shared over 100,000 times. Hearing his pleas, I laughed scornfully. Deputy Director, I prefer your previous arrogant attitude. In the end, the Deputy Director was put under investigation. More than a dozen others were arrested along with him. Everyone applauded the outcome. These vermin don't deserve to wear white coats. They've tarnished the sacred profession of being a doctor. As the public outcry grew, more details about my suspension were revealed. I had been cheated on by my fiancée, Meredith Barlow. My fiancée Meredith and my brother Gareth had an affair, resulting in an ectopic pregnancy and severe bleeding. I saved her life, but instead of feeling guilty or grateful, she went and filed a complaint against me. Oh, and the all-knowing internet users dug up news from over a decade ago. They found out I was that brave orphan from back then. This set the internet ablaze. I've never seen such a despicable woman. This Haig family are all rotten to the core. I remember that news from years ago. We thought the Haigs adopted Griffith out of kindness, but they had ulterior motives all along. Disgusting. The public outrage was intense. In recent years, many retailers have been getting into live streaming. The Haig family wanted to jump on this trend too, so they poured almost all their resources into live streaming. They spent money signing big-name streamers. They spent money buying views and followers. It seemed quite impressive at first, but as the scandals came to light, the Haig family's business took a hit. They were treated like a dog with a bad name on the internet, with everyone out to get them. The streamers couldn't even go live anymore. As soon as they started streaming, righteous internet users would flood the chat with insults. All the products they had sold before were being returned. Many suppliers and distributors refused to work with them anymore. The Haig family was in complete disarray. Griffith, come home. We're family, aren't we? Yes, it was all a misunderstanding. There's no such thing as overnight grudges between mother and son. Come back. Help us with the live streaming to boost the family business. Otherwise, our company will be finished. My adoptive parents had found me, begging me humbly to help them through their crisis. They even brought Gareth along. Slap! My adoptive father gave Gareth a hard slap across the face. You little beast! Apologize to your brother now. My adoptive mother also scolded him with a fierce expression. Your brother has been so good to you. Without him, you'd be a disabled beggar. Without him, how could you have gotten into university? So they knew about all I had done. This made me feel even colder towards them. Gareth, holding his face, also pleaded to me submissively. Brother, I was wrong. I'll give you back that tart, Meredith. Isn't that enough? My adoptive mother continued to add fuel to the fire. Griffith, dear, that woman is like a barren fig tree now. She's not worthy of you at all. She's nothing but a Jonah. Without her, how could you brothers have fallen out? Listen to your mum. Come home and use your popularity to help the family sell products. You'll earn much more than being a doctor. Looking at the ugly faces of these people, I shook my head with a smile. Our relationship is over. Mr. and Mrs. Haig, please go home. I closed the door, but I could still hear the family cursing loudly. Rowena gently threw herself into my arms. Darling, don't be sad. From now on, I'm your family. My parents are your parents. I held Rowena tightly, shedding hot tears. This time, they were tears of happiness. A few days later, I met Rowena's parents. They were very kind to me and had no objections to our marriage. I also started at my new workplace. Everything was going well. That afternoon, Rowena and I went shopping at the supermarket. Just as we parked, an agitated woman rushed over. Griffith, I was wrong. Please forgive me. It was Meredith, whom I hadn't seen in a long time. She looked very haggard and burst into tears as soon as she saw me. Gareth is not human. He got tired of me and then dumped me because I can't have children. My reputation is ruined online. I can't find a job. I have no friends, and even my parents have cut ties with me. They say I'm a disgrace and bring shame to the family. I've lost everything. You're all I have left. I know you love me. Let's get back together? Before I could speak, Rowena had already stepped forward to assert her position. I'm sorry, but Griffith is my husband now. You've lost him forever. Meredith stared at Rowena, her eyes full of jealousy. You're just my replacement. He'll always love me the most. No, I never loved you. I spoke up to correct Meredith's words. What I loved before was just the false you, the pure image you carefully crafted, not the real you. Now I have Rowena, and she is my soulmate. I left with Rowena, leaving Meredith sitting on the ground, crying loudly. A crowd of people around were taking photos and videos with their phones. But that had nothing to do with me anymore. She said she regretted it. But there's no such thing as a time machine in this world. Later, I heard that Meredith Barlow went to make a scene with Griffith Haig again. She demanded a breakup fee. She claimed that her uterus was ruined because of Gareth and demanded £1 million in compensation. Gareth, of course, refused to pay. Gareth's mother even slapped Meredith and told her to get lost. That night, the Haig family's clothing warehouse burst into flames. Because it was full of clothes, there was no way to save it. They could only watch helplessly as all the goods were reduced to ashes. The Haig family went bankrupt as a result. Meredith was arrested and sent to prison. She was sentenced to 10 years in prison. She kept writing to me from jail, but I didn't read a single word. I married Rowena Sinclair. One day after our wedding, I suddenly received a call from my former foster mother. Griffith, come quickly to save your brother. He was stabbed 17 times in a pub brawl over a girl. The hospital says you're the best surgeon. Only you can save him. Please hurry. He's almost gone. I'm begging you. I'll get on my knees if I have to." Listening to Mrs. Haig's pleas, I calmly said, "I'm sorry, Mrs. Haig, but I'm boarding a plane right now. I'm off to aid Africa. I'm afraid I can't help." With that, I hung up the phone, took my wife's hand, and boarded the plane. The plane soared into the sky. I later heard that Gareth died, and my foster parents went mad. The reason Gareth was injured was that he had an affair with his best mate's wife. His friend was in prison and had entrusted his wife to Gareth's care. After 3 years in prison, he came out to find his wife 9 months pregnant. It was all Gareth's doing. So a bloody fight ensued. Gareth deserved what he got. I felt no sympathy whatsoever. This time in Africa, I was still a battlefield doctor, and Rowena was still a war correspondent. We were like Romeo and Juliet, righting wrongs wherever we went. I saved lives, and she used her camera to expose the truth and call for peace. I became a renowned doctor. She became a famous journalist. I was honored by the World Health Organization, and she won a prestigious journalism award. Of course, more than these accolades, we cared about the fulfillment in our hearts. A couple amidst gunfire. Isn't that a unique kind of romance? Many years later, looking back, I suddenly felt grateful to Meredith. If it weren't for her betrayal, how could I have found my own happiness?